Sup flappers, welcome to another video brought to you by Erotic Walrus. So today we're going to be talking about an issue that has essentially plagued Mihoyo since the conception of Genshin Impact and since patch 1.0. Now, I have done polls on this matter since way back, and every time I've done this poll, I get a mixed response, including this time. And now, if you're still curious and don't know what I'm talking about the Spiral Abyss for Mihoyo and how it has to be balanced. Yet, it seems to be the most outspoken and vocal thing regarding game balance. Now, some people love certain iterations of the Abyss and others find it absolutely horrendous and impossible to push through. Now, I understand this isn't inherently Mihoyo's problem, as it is the game design's problem. So I guess it is Mihoyo's problem. But it's not as black and white as we like to think, because Mihoyo currently has two decisions to make: whether they want to design the Spiral Abyss with ever-changing laws of the game and characters, or they just want to have one iteration and have it be a never-ending goal that people can continuously chase upwards towards. Now, the good thing with the first one is Mihoyo can always make changes and adjustments to benefit themselves and the sales of their banners, to give players in certain time frames a certain edge over other players who chose not to get characters. Now, that is monetary driven. Does it sound bad for the company to design an entire late game scenario around sales of their characters? Yeah, it does, but at the same time, it's not impossible to beat these Abyss rotations with free-to-play characters and proper planning and understanding of game mechanics. So with that said, I'm Erotic Walrus, and this is another discussion video. We are going to be covering why the Spiral Abyss is going to cause a lot of problems for Mihoyo down the line. If you're interested in discussion topics, I think that there is no better place than this YouTube channel right here. We talk about everything regarding Genshin Impact, starting from the most minute of details all the way up to the most grandiose and hot topic discussions. And I would love to know what you all think about these topics. Anyways, with that said, let's get into the video. The Spiral Abyss, I find, is an integral part of the Genshin Impact experience. Currently, it is the most difficult content that you can get consistently throughout the game, apart from certain events. Now, the Spiral Abyss is known to be ever-changing, starting from the buffs that it gives players in certain rotations, all the way to the nerfs that it can apply as well. Yesterday, I did a poll on what people thought about this current iteration of the Abyss, and it wasn't to my surprise that I saw many people find it good, right? It's got a 4-star out of 5 stars rating for the vast majority of people who voted, and I think that was what it was supposed to be, and I think that's what Mihoyo also tried to push a design towards. But with that said, a video I released yesterday talking about new Spiral Abyss, I was reading through some of the comments and I started to see people saying, well, it's actually worse. I really don't like this current iteration of the Spiral Abyss. And it got me thinking in that, well, Mihoyo has made some great changes to this iteration of the Spiral Abyss comparing to the last. And a lot of people disagreed with that. A lot of people thought Mihoyo just took another step backwards from the previous changes that they've made, which were the addition of the Abyss Herald and Abyss Lector, where they have elemental shields where you have to break. And during that period of gameplay, when they first came out, players were also saying Mihoyo took a step backwards. Now, it's very difficult for Mihoyo to make changes to the Spiral Abyss without offending a certain group or offending certain players and their preferred playing experience. So the vast majority of players that I saw having problems with the current iteration of the Spiral Abyss is that they feel it's just a continuous DPS or damage sponge. Now, while that I think it's important for Mihoyo to make monsters stronger, there is also a proper way to do it. And I think that this current iteration of the Abyss changes are indeed better than the previous with the Abyss Herald and Lector, because the Abyss Herald and Lector were not only damage sponges to the previous versions of the Abyss, but also they are forcefully making players use specific elemental reactions to gain an upper edge. Now, with the current Abyss, I am not saying you don't need elemental advantages. I'm currently just saying that for most DPS squads, for most DPS elements, you actually don't have that big of an issue in Abyss Lore 12. And yes, I know a lot of people are still stuck on Abyss Floor 10, Abyss Floor 11, and haven't even touched Abyss Floor 12 yet. But Mihoyo currently is designing the Abyss for proper player progression. Now, what that really means is just players are getting stronger. We're getting stronger every day. Most players are daily players. And with the amount of resin we get every single day, we can funnel that into certain characters, and they should be constantly getting stronger and stronger. We should be having more variance in our team builds. We should have better understanding of how exactly our teams work, how our DPS rotation should be, and perfecting certain iframes and certain mechanics in the game. Now, for those of you who don't know, Mihoyo actually has way more in-game data than they actually show for. There used to be this thing they do called Teyvat Times, where they literally show every speck of details from the most minute to the biggest flex-worthy data. So I trust Mihoyo is designing their game, especially their end game, around what players likely would need to feel challenging. Now, we cannot balance the game around the whales, and I don't believe the current iteration of the Abyss is balanced around whales. But Mihoyo is trying to put more of an emphasis on player skill and proper resource management. So now you may be all wondering, then why is this going to be a problem for Mihoyo? Because there is just no way to balance the game properly with their current setup. First and foremost, it's no secret that Mihoyo wants to make money, and with the current iteration of the Aspire Abyss, it's going to once again funnel players and make people want to pull on certain banners. But at the same time, this is also flawed because it forces people to live in the moment and act upon impulses or emotions. These Abyss changes don't last permanently, and they're only here for a set duration. And once people start to understand that, it's going to become much easier to stop pulling simply because you want to beat the Abyss. And going forward with the rate Mihoyo is currently working at, the damage sponge mechanic just won't feel satisfying even for veteran players over a long span of time. For newer players who are just entering into the game or entered into the game later, they're gonna find the Abyss to be far more challenging than previous iterations, especially since a lot of these newer players don't have the resources to build up strong characters, strong teams, or were they here for amazing characters such as Venti and Zhongli to capitalize on their amazing kits to give themselves an advantage or mitigate a certain disadvantage in the current Abyss. Now, of course, the god of free-to-play players, Mr. Enviosity, is still able to clear the Abyss, so everything is fine and dandy. But do understand how much game knowledge and skill is required to pull something like that off. Oftentimes, I find most people that watch Mr. Enviosity is just watching it for the spectacle and not really applying the same game knowledge and mechanics into their own game. And who is there to blame them? Because it is really difficult to actually pull off a free-to-play gaming experience in Genshin Impact. And Mihoyo is waiting around every single corner to try to get you with one of their PR presses, their waifus or husbandos. Currently, there is no good way to solve the solution for Spiral Abyss without either making additional changes or completely revamping its design. And I think Mihoyo is not going to do any of that for the foreseeable future, because currently there is just not enough demand to make further changes to the Spiral Abyss. Mihoyo has a working formula, they have ways to milk the player base, so there is no incentive for them to make changes. Why change anything when everything works? Personally, again, I find this new Spiral Abyss to be a push in the right direction for players who have been playing the game more seriously and are constantly trying to push their upper limits. For those who just want to go in for a quick primo gem grab, it's definitely going to be frustrating. I understand that, and until Mihoyo finds better ways for artifact management and also letting us adjust our gears within the Abyss team selection page, it's going to be a grind to figure out what works and whatnot, and oftentimes people just don't want to bother switching their gears around to try to min-max for the Spiral Abyss, and I understand that. I think UI changes, maybe quality of life changes for the Abyss loadout should be coming soon, but for the actual Abyss changes, not likely. With that said, I'm going to end the video right here. Thank you all for watching, and like and subscribe if you enjoyed these kind of discussion videos. With that said, my name is Erotic Walrus, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe and peace.